So what's up, Sam? How are you?
Good, man. How are things?
Not too bad, not too bad. We were just saying about the isolation and lockdown and the boredom. Did you have any fights coming up?
I did actually. Yeah, I had one. Had one scheduled for the 28th of March, I guess it would have been. Yeah, so about 4 weeks ago today. Actually, funnily enough, I had to pull out of that with an injury. Like about a week before the lockdown got or about a week before the whole thing got kind of bad. The lockdown hadn't been announced yet, but I had a neck injury. But my friend, I was matched on it. My friend, my teammate John Byrne, was also matched on it, and he would have been fighting. Of course, everything was cancelled at some point. But so yeah, I don't know if it's kind of good timing with the injury, but it wouldn't have happened anyway. But it's
Yeah.
kind of frustrating.
How was the injury now?
Grand, yeah, absolutely fine. It was a case of it would have been grand. It's just it was so close to the fight, and uh, I couldn't. The main thing was I wasn't very mobile at all. Like I couldn't even run really or do any stationary carry, and then I couldn't have cut the weight. That was the main thing. I wouldn't mind. I was only a couple of weeks out. I wouldn't have minded if I couldn't spar or roll or whatever. But like I wouldn't be able to move enough to cut the actual weight. So I
Yeah,
just made a
what was
smart
the injury?
decision.
Was it an ankle or a knee or?
No, it was a back kind of neck thing.
Oh yeah,
That wasn't that serious in the scheme of things. But like I said, that close to a fight, it just wasn't a deal. And like I guess I'd had my last two fights. I wasn't 100% either. So I said, and there were two losses. So I said, from now on, like I'm going to go into my next fight, my comeback fight. I'll only go in if I'm 100%. So I'm glad I made that decision anyway.
yeah. I suppose it doesn't seem too bad if you go in with a bit of an injury and you come out with the win, but then really
Yeah,
makes you evaluate if it doesn't work out.
exactly. That's true as well. It's kind of like hindsight. Like I fought injured before, and it was like brownie points almost. Like you're bragging about it, but then
Yeah, that
uh,
doesn't pay off. So how did you get started in martial arts? My understanding is
uh,
you're a Clare man.
I'm a Clare man. Yeah, I'm in Clare now. My
I'm
family home
also
in Clare. Yeah.
I'm a Clare man here myself as well. So
How are you? Where are you?
6 Mile Bridge.
No way. You're only around the corner.
Yeah, yeah. So
That's
whereabouts?
gas.
Where are you from yourself?
I'm from Granny.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So
But
yeah,
like we would. What age are you?
me 25.
25. I play for Badike. I played hurling for Badike. Like we were probably if you played GAA, we probably shared the pitch a
Yeah,
couple
we
of
probably
times.
at some point in time we probably
Gas.
did. Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah. So how did you get started then into martial arts then?
Believe it or not, playing the video game, the Xbox game, UFC Undisputed 2009, back when I guess I was 15 or so, and and then, as you know yourself down here, there's nowhere to do like MMA, and especially I don't know about you're a bit close to Ennis, I guess, yeah.
A little bit, yeah, yeah.
So like out at this end anyway, there's no boxing, no nothing. There was taekwondo for a couple of years, but like so I essentially was 3 or 4 years, like really wanting to do this, um, like 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 really really wanting to seeing it, watching fights, and like idolizing. I have pictures here in my room on my wall of like Forrest Griffin and like Rashad Evans and stuff like that, and then when I was 18, I went to college in Dublin, and people had recommended SBG. I didn't hear of SBG before that, but anyone I asked about like training MMA in Dublin said SBG, so went in there after Freshers Week really, and that was it.
Yeah, so I suppose kind of late really to compare to some other people getting involved.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, and I go through phases of thinking it's a problem, and then kind of realizing it's not a problem, and like, but I
Yeah,
mean, I don't think it is. I don't think it is like I think any fighter will have a lifespan on his career anyway, because it's such a physical sport. Like I don't know other sports. I guess like football, they'd kind of they'd have like a general age that they'd retire, would they?
Yeah, I suppose kind of mid-30s is kind of the
Yeah,
general,
whereas I feel like
you know.
some fighters would fight on if they started probably but later in their lives, they'd fight on till 40, I'd say, like some of them, would they?
Yeah, there is some good examples I
Yeah,
think of that where the guys
yeah,
who come up a bit late manage to extend their career, just
yeah,
because the damage you can take throughout a career, that if you start young, it kind of builds up.
exactly, yeah, exactly.
But if, have you ever felt maybe you were at a disadvantage? Maybe, I don't know, like just an example, maybe somebody from a striking background, if somebody had a kickboxing or a boxing start, like from when they were a kid to where they're maybe bringing that across now. Do you feel you've been at a bit of a disadvantage, or?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I mean, just at times as an overall fighter, I know in the bigger picture I'm not, but like at times, for example, do you know of my teammate Azil Hadjuj?
Yeah.
Yeah, very very high level striker, and he came up first time he came over to SBG a few years ago, maybe 4 years ago now, I guess. And I suppose he was like 17, 18, and just like really high level striker, and like he'd been training under his father for years, and like started, all the years that I was playing hurling football and hanging out with friends and whatnot, he was up at 6 a.m. running, hitting the bag, like doing pads with his dad, um and I was like, oh my god, like he's a decade ahead of me, but I like to think it, and like he still is, he still is, like, and I learn an awful lot from him every time we train together. But I like to think that exactly it's a sport, it's a sport that has so many different styles in it that like things can outweigh each other. So
Yeah, I suppose it's nearly, it's kind of something in all sports. Some people, like Tiger Woods, picks up a golf club at 3 years of age, and some people mightn't pick it up till they're 15, or it's just one of those things.
yeah,
Yeah, it just
yeah.
happens in sport. Maybe a disadvantage you just have to overcome. But doesn't mean you can't succeed.
Exactly, yeah, and it's motivating at times. I guess, like feeling. I guess a lot of the time I feel like I have to outwork outwork them. Like I have to. It's like motivation to work harder. Like I have to put twice as much work in. Such a cliche, but like that's really what I think sometimes. Is like they've got all these years on me. Like I have to make that up now in the next like few years. Like um,
Yeah. So
yeah.
did you get into fighting then straight away? Did you take a fight fairly early into when you started training?
I think I had like a white collar boxing match after like 9 months or so. And it was about 9 months, I think, when I started doing white collar boxing match, and then amateur Thai boxing and MMA league and grappling matches and stuff like that. Now we didn't fight out of I was in the city centre gym, so I didn't start off training like in the HQ, like where John was coaching. Um, and and up until I fought MMA, even amateur MMA, out of that gym, no one was fighting MMA. It was like we were allowed to fight kind of like striking and stuff, like all the other kind of stuff, but no one had represented SBG in the cage as such
Yeah.
until then. So I guess I and me and a couple of my close teammates really pushed for that. Like we were kind of a first wave of um, amateurs, I suppose, because of course before us, like Chris Fields and Paddy and all them, Connor even used to train in that, like spar in that gym, I think, at
Yeah.
lunchtimes, because it's in the city centre. A lot of the those lads that worked used to come in and spar there. He's at a sparring gym. But when I started there, that wasn't happening anymore. So it was like me and a couple of lads that I started with, Elliot, Levy, Fionn. We kind of worked our way up, and I had the first amateur MMA fight out of that gym.
Was that John Kavanagh running that gym himself, or did he have one of the other guys running it?
Um, no, like I didn't meet him. I didn't really meet him until I joined the other gym. Like he wasn't. I'd imagine he was overseeing it, like from a distance, but uh, it was more ran by Stephen King, one of my first coaches, fantastic coach, and Phil White, like the striking coach there, and a grappling coach, and a grappling coach, Eric, and then Chris Fields as well, I guess, was involved because a few of us would go out to the HQ gym on Long Mile Road on Friday nights to do an SBG MMA team like training, or SBG like MMA league team training. All the lads that were fighting in the MMA league for SBG met in Long Mile in the big gym on Friday nights and all trained. So it was a good chance for us to go and train in that gym. And like, even though we weren't training with the fight team, like with Paddy and Connor and that, it was kind of like an introduction to that atmosphere, and they were kind of floating around sometimes, you know, and stuff like that. So through that, I guess Chris was involved with the city centre gym as well.
What was that like when you first kind of stepped into the gym and saw all the guys who had been either in the UFC or pushing for the UFC?
Yeah, it was different. Like, I mean, I guess I'd been out there doing the MMA league and stuff before Connor got signed. I think a bigger moment for me was when like we were waiting outside the city centre gym, waiting for the coach to open up, and the lads were talking about how Connor had been signed, and that was like a bigger moment for me where I was like wow, like maybe, you know, like this could be my career, like because up until then I don't think I'd, you know, I was certainly very dedicated and I was doing it all the time, but purely because I loved it and I wanted to fight amateur definitely, and I wanted to do well. But I was a kind of like a switch where I was like, well, maybe it's actually really worth it in terms of this could be a career like as well.
Yeah, I suppose it maybe went from like a dream of that wouldn't it be great if it was possible, and then it only takes that kind of first guy to get signed and it's got
Exactly.
there's a path now, you can see the way to go forward.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So then like you had a good few MMA or sorry, like amateur MMA fights even then.
Yeah.
How
I
did
had
you?
three. I had three out of the city centre gym, and then that kind of, I had my third fight, and then I that kind of coincided with me finishing my third year exams, and I decided then after my third year exams that I'd leave college. I was doing what would be a 4-year degree, but I left with an ordinary degree, just to pursue MMA, like. And so that happened shortly after my third MMA fight. And then when I finished college, I moved out to near Walkinstown where the Long Mile gym was. It was actually then it had already moved to where it was last, which was Concord. So they're all really close together where they all were. But so yeah, I moved out to Walkinstown, rented a place out there, got a job relatively straight away, like in a Subway out there, and that marks me, you know, training with the pro team and living out there and working, not in college anymore, you know, working, supporting myself, like, and
How have
just
you,
going after it, like really going after it, like.
yeah, how have you found that balancing a job with trying to train for a pro career?
Good, good. Like, I think it's always kind of kept me a bit hungrier. I had a stint when I first got signed to Bellator where I decided I would stop working for a while and just focus on training. And it was good. Like, I found I got more, I suppose I got better quality rest at the weekends and stuff like that. Because it's one of the hardest things now, I suppose, is like, you know, training 2 or 3 times a day all week, and then working Saturday and Sunday. So it's like there's no real time when you're actually like fully at rest.
Yeah.
Obviously not now because Corona and all that, but this usually, like, so I took that time to actually just train, and it was like I was training all week, and then I train Saturdays, I guess, and I would rest on Sundays, like properly rest. But and then I went back to work again after my second fight with Bellator, and I think for now I want to continue working, not only because I need to work at the weekends to support myself, but I think, like I said, it keeps me hungrier, and it kind of keeps me more focused. Like, I don't get distracted the weekends. Then it's like you know, keeping the head down all the time.
Yeah, you have that structure, that kind of, but you
It
have
is,
to be.
yeah, it's structure, I guess, and routine. Like, yeah,
And so then, like, even as amateur, you would have done two of the IMAAF tournaments. How did you find that experience?
Great. So I did Birmingham in 2015, and that was amazing. Like that was a great experience. Yeah, just a lot of experience packed into a short amount of time. At that during that one, um, they were still doing multiple fight or like more than one fight in a day. So I had three fights, but I had three fights within like 36 hours. Like I had two the first day, and then I'd won. Oh no, I'd won the first day, and then two the second day, and so like that was great experience. I kind of wish they'd kept doing that. To be honest, I think that's good. I think that's like good experience doing like that. Um, but and then I did. So I won my first two fights there, and I lost the third, and which was kind of, and I didn't medal, it was kind of annoying though, because the guy that beat me in the third fight, oh no, sorry, one of the guys in the bracket with me who ended up having the same record as me, um, like moving forward. Sorry, the guy who beat me, yeah, the guy who beat me in the third fight and put me out of the tournament, lost his next fight. So, but he'd got a forfeit in the first round. So I finished the tournament 2-1, 2 wins, 1 loss. He
Yeah.
finished 2-1, but he still got a medal. He got a gold. He got a bronze medal
And,
because
and didn't
he
fight.
got a walkover like on the first fight. But anyway, it's petty, but like, and then I went to Bahrain in 2018. I guess that was the Worlds, and that was great as well. But like, I think I was too. I think that I took it all way too seriously. Like, not that you shouldn't take it seriously, but Birmingham, I was like young, and I was just like, I didn't care, and I was just having fun, and like, whereas Bahrain, I was like trying to do everything to like a science, like my sleep, I was already changing my sleep pattern to match the daylight time in Bahrain, and like had my diet like perfect, which I still do. I think that's important for me anyway. But I was doing everything like too focused almost, and like building up too much and posting loads on Instagram and saying like how I was going to win gold, and like um and then I won my first fight and I lost my second fight to Kazakhstan. um but still amazing experience. That they're hard. It's hard losing in those because it's hard losing any fight, but it's hard losing in those because you're in your mind, you're like, I'm gonna have 5 fights this week, you know, and then you lose in the second day and you're like I don't really care that I lost, but like I want to fight again. Like that's one of the hardest things, is like I want to fucking fight again. Like, I wish they would have some sort of structure where you could just get the fights in anyway, like, you know.
Yeah.
So I ended up taking a fight, uh 10, like I lost my fight, and then I was straight on to my teammate Elliot, who often gets me fights, and he got me a fight 10 days later in Liverpool. So we flew in from Bahrain or whatever, and I fought, and that fight in Liverpool ended up being one of my favorite performances in my amateur career anyway, and ended up being my last amateur fight.
Yeah. How did you find the difference between kind of the tournament setup to maybe the Saturday night format, kind of where it's just one fight that night, versus going to a tournament where, like you said, you're nearly building up to have 5 fights.
Yeah, I guess it's a lot less, like, it's kind of a lot less intense. I don't know how I describe the difference. I think I'm quite good at tuning out the crowd or what's going on outside the cage anyway. Um, you know, I'd imagine a lot of fighters are. I can't say what they're experiencing, but I think once I'm in there, I didn't like not too much of a difference. There is that, obviously, that amateur feel to it with the rash guards and the shin pads, so that does take away a bit from the intensity of it. Like, um, even when I fought amateur on the amateur shows, the amateur fights that I had, we didn't have shin pads or anything. So, you know, like that puts an edge on it almost. Like, there's
Yeah.
nothing, like, you know, you just have your gloves and your shorts and your rum shield, and that's it. But then again, with the IMAAFs, it's like everyone's hanging around in the hotel like all week, and like eyeing each other up. And like I remember my first fight in Bahrain, I kicked my opponent's knee, and my foot, after the fight, my foot ballooned up, and me and my who I was staying with, Fionn, we were doing ice baths, in the hotel room that night. All that night we were ordering ice and I doing ice baths. I was trying to get my foot sorted out, and it wasn't too bad. The next morning I woke up. Of course, we have to weigh in every morning, and I remember I was going on to weigh-ins, and like I was wincing because I didn't want to be limping around because I didn't know who my opponent was.
Yeah.
And like, you know, anyone, like any member of his team could have known I was fighting him and said like, oh, your man's limping, it's his left foot, whatever. So, but that's part of the experience. Everyone cutting weight in the sauna as well, like, you know, going in, and like I remember when I was out and I was chatting to one of the lads who was in my division, Ben, who won it in the end actually, and the American lad I think, and we were chatting away, and like I was just like asking him how things were going and stuff, and he was like, he was being kind of ingenuine. I felt, and then he was asking me how I was getting on, and I was saying how I'd lost today, and he was like, he kind of like let out a sigh of relief, and he was like, he'd been like lying to me to make it seem like he was in better shape than he was because he was still in it. He thought I was still in it, and that we might have been facing each other. So he was like trying to say that he wasn't struggling or anything like that. And then he was like, when he found out that I was actually out of the tournament, he was like, oh my God, yeah, I'm cutting weight every day, and like I'm losing this many pounds, and like however tired he was and how sore he was and stuff. Like, so
Yeah,
yeah,
it's more of the, I'd be much more used to kind of that kind of feel because you know, with taekwondo, it is like that. Like you go away with a team, and it could be a couple of countries in the same hotel, and you might be fighting for a couple of days. So you see the guys that you're sparring against like that. If people are cutting weight, we're lucky enough now you only have to weigh in the one day, but
yeah,
you could see guys. You could see guys in the sauna that are in your division, and that, and it doesn't really take getting used to get used to that environment. If like that. Because it starts to build it up, even the nerves, like you said, when you start seeing the guy and you're eyeing the guy you're going up against, and Jesus, he ready, and like that. Even you said, like, does he have an injury? Does he have this? If you're in the sauna,
yeah,
how long has he been in the sauna? How much is he cutting? And it takes that experience to maybe get used to that, and maybe just put it out of your mind. And
yeah,
but
yeah. I'd imagine so. I don't have much of that, of course. Like that was kind of, I guess, jits comps, but like that's the only kind of real tournament experience I have, and I could see why lads that, like, for example, Azale comes to mind, Dylan Logan and Kiefer like come to mind, having that like either kickboxing or taekwondo or whatever experience, like tournament experience, and having like how many fights have you had, would you say, in tournaments total? Like
like
couldn't count. Like
I'm I'm going since I was 7 to to
yeah,
now. Like if you're competing, like I couldn't count up how
yeah,
many. I'd struggle with to count the tournaments I've done. Never mind,
right.
So
There you go. So it's like and that's all those times stepping on the mat and like start looking at your opponent and having all them nerves, and like that counts for something, that's for sure. Like, and I guess I never really had that. Like I just had it on the sports field, like, but nowhere near that level. So it was good to have that. I really need to run and get my laptop charger, man.
no worries.
Give us a sec.